Dude, this one is massive, like literally massive. The best thing in the planet, okay, is this. I'm gonna start by my app service provider. You know what? Because there is a couple of things that I always do on my app service provider, and I want you guys to see this. Dude, this one is massive, like literally massive. The best thing in the planet, okay, is this predict pre-bit destructive commands in production. Okay, this is the best thing in the planet when you're working with Laravel, which is, you just create this method called configure commands, and I call this, if I'm not mistaken, on my boot method. So I add this to my boot method, just configure commands. And what it does is basically, if you were to run, if you by mistake you were to run any command, any artisan command that would destroy production database, this thing will basically forbid that. So I always add this to my app service provider, configure commands. Yeah. Now I'm going to show you something really cool as well, which is my configure models. So I don't work with the models that come by default. I typically do these two things. I ensure that my models are strict, which is a pretty cool thing. So if you were to, for example, let's say, if you are trying to fetch a user, for example, so let's say user equals to user find one, for example, and then you try to fetch, for example, a property that doesn't exist, what will happen is that Laravel will throw an exception because the property doesn't exist. Yeah, this is something that I always do. Keep my models most strict as possible because I want to make sure that I don't access properties that don't exist anymore, Something I want to use as well is this on guard, because basically I want to be able to do, I want to be able to just create my user model and not have to think about the guarded stuff, because, I just want to work fast. So it should be strict and unguarded. That's something I always use. Oh, I also use this one literally all the time. Configure URL. I make sure that my app can only be used on HTTPS. So that's something I always do. So let's put it here. So basically, if someone would try to access my application in HTTP, in an unsecure way, Laravel will never reply to that because I'm always forcing HTTPS, which is pretty cool. And the final one, because hopefully we are going to use inertia 2 in React on this project, is I always configure Vite to use the prefetch strategy aggressive. So is one of my favorite features that Laravel released a couple of weeks ago, and I'm always using. So basically each time I do a new release, all the Vite assets come at once. So it's in a very performant way. I'm very happy about that.